Hey everybody, how you doing? Back at it again with Dr. Gene Hess. Welcome back again for another episode of Motivated Matters here on April 19th. We're going to continue our conversation about autism. If you didn't get a chance to go see last week's video, it was a great introduction that Dr. Gene Hess gave us on what is autism, and some of the key nuggets that I took from it that I thought were very, very paramount is that, hey, this has been around for a long time. And we are just now seeing over the last 10 to 15 years the increase in numbers where it's starting to become something that we really need to think about. And I think that's what we talked about last week. If you didn't check out last week, you got to go back and check it out. Like it and subscribe, share it with your tribe, bring it with you. The second piece that we talked about last week is just really understanding, how do we transition from awareness to acceptance? And that's something that we're really going to continue to talk about during this episode, because I think there's going to be some really key nuggets that we're going to do. But before we talk about that, we're going to make sure we give ExecuMass their props. We always have to recognize our sponsorship as we're showcasing today another one of their beautiful spring bling prints. This one is called Blue. I'm sure you can figure out why. I love this print though. It's very nice. All of their spring collection is very nice and light. So really go check it out, execumass.com. I think you'll be very nice to see what they have. All right, let's get to it today. So let's get into it. So Dr. Gene Hess, we're going to transition and keep building off of our topic last week. We talked about what is autism. You gave us a great introduction. And some of the nuggets that I took from that is, you're an amazing individual because of you being a mom, not only a professor. The trifecta thing, but we want to talk about what does it mean to be a parent? And what are some of those things that you want to share with us being a parent of an autistic son?
I would be happy to do that. And I got over 20 years in this one, so I got a lot to say about that too. Last time I talked about the fact that autism is a developmental disability, and that it's often not something that you just point at and say, oh, your child has autism. It's one of those things that comes out over time. My son wasn't identified until he went to school, and can you imagine being the person that has Alex as a kindergartner and you have to call me to tell me that my kid has autism? I'm Dr. Gene.
You're a professor.
Yes.
In special education.
Yes.
And you didn't even know.
Correct.
Get out. Could you imagine?
Yeah. It's pretty wild.
Okay.
So it made sense when somebody else said it. I could reflect on things that had happened over time and say, oh, yeah, okay, sure. But here's what happens immediately. It's a grieving process because as a parent, you have all these hopes and dreams for your child, right? You're going to grow up and be this or be that and this successful or that successful and do this thing, whatever. And all of a sudden you have a diagnosis and you have, sadly, even me, have a preconceived idea about what having autism and having a disability means to your child. And so there's a grieving process that you have to go through as a parent. And what I learned as a parent is you don't grieve once. I have coined a phrase, and I call it episodic grieving. And so there are times when I see other parents have their kids go to prom, or their kids get a new car, or their kids do these things, and mine can't because of his limitations.
Does that ever lead into depression for some? Or
Well, it certainly does as a parent. And so I am out and loud and proud about the fact that mental health professionals, as the parent of a child with special needs, absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's one of them. One of the other things that's really challenging as a parent of a child with autism is I take him everywhere. I believe wholly that he should be included and that he should live just as full a life as he possibly can within the limitations that he has. And so we go to parks and museums and on trips, and we've traveled the United States. He's been to 25 states. We just go, we do things. We go to places and we get stared at. I get looked down upon. My parenting in public is questioned. I think that that shouldn't happen because nobody out there has any business telling me how to be a parent. I don't go around telling other people how to be a parent unless they hire me to help them,
right?
Which happens. But I think that people really need to be aware of the fact that the challenges that I live with as a parent of a child with autism are my challenges and not their business unless I ask them for their opinion or their help.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's pretty outrageous.
That is deep. Oh, there's so many layers here that I'm just thinking about, you know, just in terms of how that's impacted your relationships, how that's, you know, like, or his relationships. I mean, you really are connected to this individual for the rest of their days. Think about the people that don't have someone like Doc that's a great mom that takes care of their children that have autism. It's just very interesting to hear that.
And that's actually the third point. And the third, even within the world of autism, I learned as a teacher of kids with autism, interacting with families of kids with autism, and trying my best at the time without this level of knowledge to be kind and supportive and understanding and doing the best that I could. I didn't understand that when that kid went home, they were right back into that family system. And that family system has so much stress every single day. And so then the kid would come back to school and I would say, oh, these are the things that happened today. Can you do this at home? And I would often get, well, we didn't have a chance, or there was a meltdown, or, and I couldn't understand as a teacher. And so I would say, I understand without knowing. And so the last point that I want to make as a parent is when you're interacting with somebody who has autism, or is the parent of somebody with autism, please don't say the words, I understand. Because you can't. It's not your fault, you just can't. And so even as a professional in the field, and I work with families all the time, it's what I do. I say things like, I can strongly identify, I can only imagine, because it's true. I can't live their path, I can't walk their journey.
Right.
I can, in some instances, only imagine what it's like to parent that child with autism. And they can only imagine what it's like to parent my child with autism. Nobody walks my path. And so that's my third and final point. Don't say to somebody who has a child with autism, I understand.
This is deep, y'all. This is deep. I'm over here like really, really just thankful that you're here to spend time with us, but just the education alone. Think about being in her shoes, you know what I mean? I'm sitting here thinking about being in her shoes and all the different dynamics over the course of not just her life, but her child's life as well, and the impact to the different relationships. We don't understand, so let's not act like we do. You know, you think about what she said, this is a disease that grows over time. So the baby that comes out of a woman's womb is not the child that's going to be 5-10 years from now. Can you imagine how that puts so much stress on a family? So I just want you to think about all these things. You're not always going to hear these things, but thank you again for sharing your parental tips and just your experience as a parent with a child of autism. We look forward to seeing you again here on Motivated Matters. Hope you like this and subscribe and share with your tribe. We'll be back for one more roundup to kick off and finish off the month of April, as Dr. Jean is going to share with us one last key episode. Can't wait to see you again next week. See you all, everybody. Take care. This message has been brought to you and sponsored by Execumass. Find us at www.execumass.com.